Welcome and thank you so much for checking out my channel today. My name is Tanny. I am an independent author and somebody who just really loves great stories. So on this channel, I talk about writing, books I've enjoyed, and lessons I've learned on my self-publishing journey. If you are a subscriber to my channel or if you watch my videos regularly, you may have noticed that I've been kind of absent these last few weeks. This has been a really busy month for me, and I've kind of had to take a step back from YouTube for a little bit to focus on some other really important things. One of which was the release of this book, which officially came out on December 14th. If you don't already know, Tethered Spirits is my young adult fantasy novel that follows three main characters whose paths intertwine as they go on a quest to solve a magical mystery and battle their own inner demons in the process. You can find it in hardcover, paperback, and ebook on Amazon and other online retailers. If you are interested in reading it, I will leave a link down in the description if you would like to pick up a copy for yourself. Tethered Spirits is the fifth novel that I have self-published, and as with all of my other previously published novels, I learned a lot of new things and gained a lot of experience. I experimented with some new things this time around, and some of those things went really well, and others maybe didn't quite pan out the way that I wanted to. So today I thought I would spend a few minutes talking about that stuff to hopefully help other indie authors out there who may be considering some of these things, maybe just trying to figure out, what's going to work best for you. Since I would like to end on a positive note with this, we are going to start with the things that maybe didn't go so well. First of all, I put a lot of pressure on myself throughout the entire writing process with this book. Since I started publishing in 2016, I've done a pretty good job of releasing one book a year fairly consistently. I find that time frame works pretty well for me, or at least it has in the past, and I really like being able to release one book a year. And so that was something that I really wanted to do with this book, which means that it should have been published in November of 2020 because I published Calico Thunder Reds again in November of 2019. So that would have put me a year between releases. But of course, we all know how 2020 went. Between having my kids home from school and trying to still provide them with, some kind of education and structure, and then also trying to figure out how to do my job over Zoom, and just general frustration with the entire situation, I really was not able to stick to that 1 year timetable at all. I also just didn't account for the fact that this book is significantly longer than anything I've written in the past, so of course it was always going to take longer to write, and I just didn't plan for that at all. When the end of 2020 came and I still hadn't gotten the book done and it wasn't even close to being ready to release, I was honestly pretty frustrated with myself and kind of got down on myself a few times. Looking back on that experience now, I really wish that I had set better expectations for myself and made kind of a clearer plan accounting for at least the length of the book, but also when, 2020 happened and all the stuff with that. Just to really be able to cut myself a little more slack with that and recognize that, of course, all of those things are going to push me back a little, and that's okay. Stuff happens that we can't always prepare for, and we just kind of have to take things in stride as they come. The second thing that maybe didn't go so well was the timing of my release day. So I set my release day way back in August or September, when I had just finished a round of revisions, or I had maybe gotten feedback from beta readers again. I can't remember exactly where I was at in the process, but at that point I knew that I needed at least a few more months to really polish up the book and do the formatting and, just prepare it for release and all of that. I also knew that I wanted to allow plenty of time for ARC readers to read and leave a review for the book, and since it is longer, I did want to give, a fair amount of time for people to do that. So I ended up setting my release date for December 14th, and then about the end of October or early November, things started to get a little out of control in my life. There were a lot of things that kind of came together that contributed to that, but I don't know. I went through a major personal faith crisis, and that's honestly still kind of ongoing, but end of October I was very much entrenched in that and dealing with a lot and just kind of in a panic. And then in November, I caught COVID, and so I was down and completely useless for a week solid. I also had some increased stress from work. The holidays do tend to be more stressful for some people, especially for the population that I work with. Those kids that I work with, I think the holidays can be very triggering, which means that as a therapist, I'm having to provide a little extra support to families and to caregivers and the kids that I work with, which is all fine, and that's just a normal part of my job, and that's fine. But it does mean that I kind of have less mental and emotional energy to focus on book-related stuff at the end of the day. And even though I should have anticipated that coming up at my job, I didn't plan for that when I was choosing a release day. And then, of course, just the holidays in general tend to be extra busy. Plus, you have to consider holiday print and ship times, especially for Ingram Spark. They always send out an email telling people, like, hey, if you're going to order books, you have to do it before this date, because otherwise we can't guarantee that they will be, to you within a certain time frame. So I actually ended up really pushing myself to get those final files submitted before that ship date cutoff so that I could get copies for myself before the book's release. And then I found out that I had a really big work training that was going to be out of town, and it happened to fall right on my release day. It was a really good opportunity, and I'm super excited that I got to participate in that training. But it also meant that I wasn't able to be as engaged on social media or as responsive to book release related stuff on my release day or the day before or the day after, because those were the 3 days where my training was. I did end up actually having a really kind of a major issue with KDP as far as getting the paperback approved for release. And that happened right on the 14th and the 15th as I was in the middle of this training. And so I wasn't able to address that with them at all, and that pushed the release of the paperback a couple of days. A lot of those things were unavoidable, and it was just kind of bad timing and things that I couldn't anticipate coming up. I do think that I gave myself enough time to get everything done and get everything ready for release date, but it was very stressful and not ideal. And I think that putting release day right smack in the middle of the holidays was probably not my best idea, and I will not be doing that again. All right, moving away from the negative stuff, now let's talk about something that was kind of So book tours. I have gone back and forth about doing a book tour a lot over the years. I love seeing them on Instagram. I always thought it would be really fun to do that for my book and to see all the pretty Instagram photos that people put up and just help draw some more attention and visibility to the book, hopefully. But I was never really sure, how effective they might be or if they would really be worth the cost. This was the first book release where I actually had a little bit of money that I could have allocated to that, and I was kind of trying to decide whether or not that was something I wanted to do when I actually had a new book tour company that is just starting up. They saw my book on Instagram and reached out to me asking if I would be willing to let them do a book tour for me. And since it was free, why not, right? And I want to be really clear about my experience with this because I don't want to come across as being overly negative or like I'm complaining too much. It was a free service that I received, and I'm really grateful to the tour organizer for providing that service to me. They maintained really good communication throughout the whole process. I appreciated their clarity and support in just figuring out how to put this all together because I had no idea. And they were just very open in their communication and kind of walked me through every step of the process, and I really appreciated that. And of course, I really loved seeing the Instagram posts for my book. I think it got some good visibility. There were some really pretty pictures out of it, which, I don't know, I love pretty Bookstagram pictures, so that was really fun. But that is kind of about all that really seemed to come out of it. There wasn't a ton of engagement on those posts that I saw, and only a few people ended up entering the giveaway that we did as a part of the tour. Because of the costs involved with print books, I did decide to just do like an ebook giveaway, and then I offered to also send out the little swag packs that I'm giving away as like pre-order incentives, so I gave those away as well. And I do wonder if maybe there would have been a little more interest if I had decided to give away like physical print books instead, but that just wasn't a feasible option for me at this time. Overall, I was really happy that I tried it, and I do think that it was a positive experience with this particular book tour company. And of course it was free, so, you know, I can't complain too much. But as far as like being willing to pay for a service like this in the future, I'm just not sure that that would really be worth it for me. I think it's just something that I would really have to think about and consider before I threw money into something like that. I do have another book tour scheduled for Tethered Spirits in January, actually, where I'm doing a similar giveaway, and it's a very similar kind of tour, except it's, you know, after the release day instead of before. And that one is actually one that I was able to sign up for free as well. And so I'm really interested to see how they compare. And now let's talk about the things that I feel like went really well with this particular book release. First of all, outlining the series ahead of time. This is going to be my second series of novels, and with my first series, I did know that it was going to be a series fairly early on in the process, but I really didn't go into it with a clear plan or any real sense of direction for how the series would unfold over the course of, 3 books. Tethered Spirits was initially supposed to be 1 book, but as I got close to the end of that first draft, I realized that there was more of the story to tell, and so at that point I did decide to turn it into a series. I also knew at that point that there were a lot of layers and complexities and different plot threads that needed to be tied together. So I decided that it was probably a good idea to plan the whole thing out in advance. And doing that allowed me to revise the first book and weave in things that are going to carry through the next 2 books in the series. I don't have all of the finer details worked out yet, but I do have a lot of the big picture elements, and that has really given me a much clearer sense of direction and a greater level of confidence that I'm telling the story in the way that I want to tell it. The second thing that went really well with publishing this book was the formatting. When I first started self-publishing, I hated formatting my print books. It was awful and tedious, and I had no idea what I was doing, and it felt like every time I changed one little thing, it would mess up 10 other things in the formatting, and then I would have to figure that out. It just took forever. It was awful. I just hated it. But I also couldn't afford to pay anybody else to do it for me, so I kind of just tried to stick to the most basic, simplest formatting that I could do, and get something that, maybe wasn't the most beautiful, but at least it didn't look terrible and sucky. Now, 5 books in, I have turned into a book formatting nerd. I think it really started with Calico Thunder Rides Again. I did try to put some fun chapter header illustrations in that book, and I really enjoyed that. I love how it turned out. But then with this book in particular, I really kind of wanted to go above and beyond and make it look absolutely amazing. So that was my mission, and I think that I achieved that. Not to brag or anything, but I am really proud of how the book turned out. I took all of the formatting skills that I've learned and practiced over the last 5 years and took them up an extra notch this time around and created a book that I feel looks as beautiful inside as I hope the story is. And then when the formatting was done, I actually made several posts and videos just showing that formatting inside. And I had a lot of people commenting and telling me how great it looked. And I actually ended up selling way more hardcovers than I did ebooks for this book. And so I think that the formatting really helped draw some extra attention to the book and encourage people to check it out and give it a look to see if they would be interested in reading it. The third thing that went really well is that I made a really hard push for ARC readers and ARC reviews. If you don't already know, an ARC is an advanced reader copy of a book that you give out to early readers in order to generate some reviews and some buzz for the book before it even releases. My only previous experience with ARCs was when I published Calico Thunder Rides Again. I reached out to a bunch of book bloggers. I compiled a whole list, and I think I had something like 100 different book bloggers on that list, maybe a little less, but it was a lot. And it took a lot of time and effort and energy to compile that list and to send out requests to everybody. A lot of them have their own little requirements and things, so you do have to kind of tailor each request to the book blogger that you're looking to review your book. Only a handful of people responded, and of those, I can count on one hand probably the number that actually read and followed through with a review. So that was a little frustrating, you know, after you put so much time and energy into something and then it just didn't pan out the way that I wanted it to. And I have heard from several other authors who have gone through that process themselves, similar numbers and similar experiences with that. For this book, I decided to try something different, and I tried a lot of different things actually. I wanted to find out what the most effective way to get early reviews is, and so I did an experiment and tried out a bunch of different things. I am actually going to make an entire dedicated video about that experiment, and I'll probably put that up like in January. But my point is that for this book, I made a really hard push to get early reviews and to distribute a bunch of ARCs to readers who would follow through and actually leave a review of the book. And that went really well. On the day the book launched, it had more than 20 reviews on Goodreads, and as of filming this video, it has 9 reviews, I think, on Amazon. I know that doesn't sound like a lot to some people, but for me, it's huge. I mean, that's way more reviews than I've ever had on any of my books within the first week or two of their release. So I was really excited about how that went, and you know, I'll just continue to learn and improve and hopefully do better with the next book. There are a lot of other little things that I learned as I was publishing this, but those are kind of the major ones that I wanted to talk about today. Before you go, I do want to make a quick announcement that I am planning to do a live stream on December 28th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I will be signing book plates and packaging my pre-order goodies and just having a fun little chat about Tethered Spirits and about writing. If you have questions or things that you want me to talk about during that live stream, you are free to ask them, you know, either at that time, or if you can't make it, feel free to leave a comment below or message me on Twitter or Instagram and, you know, ask me any questions that you want me to address there so that maybe you can catch it on the replay later. I hope this video was helpful to you today. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and be sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future. As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you are celebrating the holidays this season, I hope you have a good one. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time. Bye.